Hey guys, welcome to her Assumed Reality Hub. And in this episode, we will be talking about the previous episode, which Andrea recorded, and it was Feeling is the Secret. Andrea, I will ask you, what was your favorite quote from that book?
Yeah, let me pull it up. I have it pulled up right here. There's a lot of great quotes in this book. I think this is a great Neville book, but I would say my favorite one is all you possibly need or desire is already yours. You need no helper to give it to you. It is yours now. Call your desires into being by imagining and feeling your wish fulfilled. As the end is accepted, you become totally indifferent as to possible failure, for acceptance of the end wills the means to that end. When you emerge from the moment of prayer, it is as though you were shown the happy and successful end of a play, although you were not shown how that end was achieved. However, having witnessed the end regardless of any anticlimactic sequence, you remain calm and secure in the knowledge that the end has been perfectly defined.
I love that. Can you tell me a little bit about how you interpret that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot comes up for me just with that quote. I think the first thing is that I really love that he kind of mentions like you don't need a helper to give anything to you; everything is yours now. Um, and I feel like that's something that like you really need to have a true understanding of in order, not in order to manifest, because we're manifesting all the time, but I guess to manifest in a way that is beneficial to you and helps you achieve your desires is by knowing that it's yours now. Because I think a lot of people start this journey by seeking a lot outside of them, or I mean, shit, I've done it like go to like brujas for spells or get tarot readings or if you say these magic words, they will be yours tonight and all this stuff. And I think it's a good reminder of like, hey, like you don't need to do any of that. You don't need anyone to help you. You just have to give it to yourself. And like, um, what is the next part of the quote that I kind of that this like feeds into? Um, you were shown the happy and successful end of a play, although you were not shown how that end was achieved. You witnessed the end. You remain calm and secure in the knowledge that the end has been perfectly defined. I just think that talks about having faith in the law and having faith in like just in what you desire, because truly if you just like stick to that, it's gonna happen for you. And I really just love I love that quote because I feel like it like I don't know, it gives me not motivation but I guess a reminder of the law if I'm ever having a day where I struggle or where things don't feel good. And
Right. Yeah, I love that. And you're right. You can't be seeking outside of yourself. It's always all internal. Everything's internal. I
yeah.
do want to talk about a little bit about another part of the book as well. We're still human beings, right?
I would hope so.
And I'm sure you also have those hard moments where you either like, I don't know, sad or anxious or right.
Hmm.
And in the book it says emotional disturbances, especially suppressed emotions, are the causes of all disease. To feel intensely about a wrong without voicing or expressing that feeling is the beginning of disease. Disease in both body and environment. Do not entertain a feeling of regret or failure, for frustration or detachment from your objective results in disease. He spells this out later too, and it's dis-ease. So I believe you do have to let that out. You have to like, I don't want to say like it's a block or anything like that, but you can identify like a belief that you have and be like, okay, well, this is it. I gotta let it out. Otherwise, you're gonna be uneased. Not at ease. Um, because I know that the feeling, if it is the feeling is what manifests. So if you're feeling anxious or worried, and you're trying to overcome that with a technique or an affirmation, it's not going to work.
No, exactly. Do you have like anything that you do when you have like that anxiety or negative feelings come up, and kind of knowing that you can't like suppress that or just get rid of it with an affirmation? What do you do?
Yeah, I personally, what I do is I become aware of whatever is going on, and I'm just like, okay, I'm going to look at this belief or worry or anxiety inducing thought, and just gonna look at it, but I'm not going to give it any, I don't want to give it any meaning more than what it already is. And I'm gonna be like, okay, this is what it is. But seeing it as the creator of my own reality, I know that this is also me creating that. So it makes me feel relief,
Mm-hmm.
right? It makes me feel relief that I am also creating that. That means that I can also get rid of that. It's like a cloud kind of, it's like, okay, this is cloud. I'm going to watch it and I'm not going to give it any more thought. I identified it and I know that I can playfully turn it into another belief.
Yeah, I think for me, um, I don't know. I mean, I used to struggle with this. I think I've honestly developed a lot better way of dealing with this nowadays. But I mean, not even like 6 months ago when that stuff would come up, I feel like it would almost like be over, like would completely overtake me because I'd feel like I'd get in a state where it was like, I'd be feeling really good. And so I'd be like, oh yeah, this is going to happen because I'm like feeling good and this is what's happening. It's going to bring it in. But then if the anxiety would come in, I would almost like continue to feed that anxiety because I was like, fuck, like now I'm thinking this and what if it manifests and what if this happens? And so, um, I think I've developed a lot more calmness around it now where, like you said, kind of like I'll see those emotions coming up and I'm like, oh, sometimes I'll just be like, okay, it's okay that I feel this way right now. Cause sometimes I just have to do that. Um, I'm like, it's okay that I feel this right now. Like it's going to pass and everything's going to be good. Um, but other times when it comes up, I'll kind of identify, I'm like, well, the only reason I'm feeling this way is because I'm believing in something that's like causing me to have anxiety or causing me to feel like this like sadness or whatever. And so I try to identify whatever that is. Or I'm like, okay, there's something I'm believing in that's causing this right now. Like I trust that I'm going to be able to identify that. And I kind of go along about my day and it sort of will come up for me pretty easily that way, if that makes sense.
Right, right. You don't want to dwell in it. Feel like it's also like a thought, like a little cloud. It's a thought. There it is. But the less attention we give it,
Mm-hmm.
the more it'll just go away. Right. I feel like that for me personally. That's what it does, and I feel like you just said that right there, where it's like, okay, like yeah, this is it, and then I'll just go about my way. Right. And have you noticed that it just like kind of disappears? Right.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think if you're like, oh my God, I can't feel this way because then this is going to cause this and like XYZ is going to happen. I feel like having that mentality almost, you're just like feeding, I don't know. It's like hard to explain the way that I see it, but like, even when I talk about this, I almost like picture this like cycle and you're just like refeeding yourself the same thing and then you're taking that in and you're creating it again out here and you're just like redoing it over and over. But yeah, like you said, if you just allow things to pass and you're kind of like, okay, like that's an emotion I'm having and kind of I guess choose to observe it and kind of take a step back and realize it rather than like aligning or attaching yourself so much with it. Um yeah, for me it always passes like super quickly, honestly, like almost sometimes almost instantly I'll be like, "Oh, that was like so easy."
Yeah. No. Same thing here. I also struggled with this too in the past, but I'm at a point where it's so much better. It's like, okay, I why do I feel this way? I identify it, and then I'm like, okay, and then just get out of my own
Mhm.
way, and it passes.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great thing about the laws because I mean, in the past in my life those things have bothered me so much and it's I think it's nice to have that like clarity around really how life works and why we're here and to understand like you don't have to you're the one creating everything. You don't have to let that shit consume you, you know?
Oh yeah, definitely. I also in the past I suffered with like anxiety. Like I had so much anxiety, and I'm at a
Mhm.
point in my life where I'm just very calm a lot of the times. It's pretty neat.
No, I feel you, dude. I would say I had not like horrible depression, but I definitely was not as happy as I am now. And I would definitely call it depression. Like I was thinking about it the other day and I was like, oh, I would just kind of go into these like depressed spells where I would just like feel like shit for like weeks. And I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, I haven't felt like depressed in a really long time. And so, I don't know. The law is just really nice. I just feel like I'm a much happier person. I feel like I bring a lot of really good things into my life, and I don't know, there's nothing that trips me up too much because even if in the moment I'm kind of like, shit, like, this isn't what I want, I'm kind of like, okay, well, like, I almost take responsibility and I'm like, all right, well, I know what I got to do now.
Right. Yeah. I totally agree. All right, Andrea, I also want to talk about another part of the book here, and it relates to what you said earlier, right? It says, think feelingly only of the state you desire to realize. Feeling the reality of the state sought in living and acting on that conviction is the way of all seeming miracles. All changes of expression are brought about through a change of feeling. A change of feeling is a change of destiny. All creation occurs in the domain of the subconscious. What you must acquire, then, is a reflective control of the operation of the subconscious, that is, control of your ideas and feelings. And he
Yeah.
talks about how to do that in the book, right? With techniques.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He talks a lot about, well, I feel like that's the main components of the book is kind of like introduction to the law, like we kind of talked about in our last episode when we talked about like our good intro to Neville material. But I feel like it's like kind of like intro to the law. This is how it works. This is what's going on. And then he gives you the technique of like sats and of prayer. Um, and so, yeah, sats is like state akin to sleep, as we all know. I feel like they're essentially one and the same, except for one you're falling asleep, and one I feel like prayer. He's talking about being in more of a meditative state.
Yes, I agree with you. Prayer is that meditative state, right? And I'm not too sure if this was where he mentions like lullaby. You know, a lot of people talk about the lullaby method.
I don't know. He doesn't mention the lullaby
He
method
doesn't
in this
mention
one.
that.
He
Okay.
talks about like kind of having like that classic Neville of like visualizing your scene with sensory vividness.
Oh, okay.
Um, and then and this, yeah, he does. I don't know if, yeah, no, it's not the same lullaby method, but he will like sit in it. He talks about in the prayer part, he talks about like sitting in a chair and closing your eyes and kind of like convincing yourself that you're sleepy. I don't know if you've ever felt that feeling where you're like sitting. I mean, I've done this with like sats before, just like meditating. You almost feel like your body like lock in. I don't. That's how it feels for me. I don't even know how to explain it. It's like, oh, there we are. Like I feel the like shift into that like they call it like theta state or kind of I guess that prayer like state of like, oh, there I am. I don't know if that makes sense
Yeah,
or if
that
you
no,
felt
that
that.
makes total sense. I have done that as well. I'll be relaxing on a chair and then just like closing my eyes and I'm just really, really relaxed up to a point where yeah, I get to that theta state and I imagine whatever it is that I want, right?
Mhm.
But I think from it. So
Yeah, I think I mean, I don't really know. I guess people would argue about this. And I think this is a big like Neville topic too when he talks about like sensory vividness. I don't know if he necessarily is talking about like your five human senses. I think he's talking about that feeling state that was mentioned earlier in that quote and like how would you feel if this were a reality, not like how would it feel in your hand? Like how would you feel as an individual, you know?
right, yeah, yeah, because it says feeling the reality of the state sought
Mhm.
and living and acting on that conviction. It is,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with that. It's not like it's not with like all the senses. And I know some people do like emphasize like, oh, when you visualize, you have to use all of your senses in your visualization. I'm like, no, you don't, because I've manifested things and I don't do that.
No, same here. I used to like hardcore try to do that. Like, oh my God. Like I would like sit there and be like, wait, like what would the ground feel like? And like what would my and I would like, oh my God, I would like put so much energy into it. Um but I like the things that I've manifested with sats, I did not have all this like sense. I would pick just picture, see, I would feel it, like I would feel the emotions that come along with it, but I wasn't like, and this is how the carpet would feel. I was just kind of like replaying a scene and really feeling that emotion with it and believing in it and being like, this is like my reality.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I've done same thing. Like, yeah, I had such a in the beginning when I first started, it was also kind of a mess in my head, just
Hmm.
because I tried to make it so real with the like, oh, I have to feel how that I don't know, let's say I was doing money, I have to exactly feel how that money feels.
No,
But
I would do the same exact I would be, like, picturing money. I'm like, "Bitch, you don't even get cash." Like, you don't have to picture having, like, this certain amount of money in your hand. You can literally just be like, "Okay, like, what would I feel like if I had $10,000?" And maybe that's just you, like, opening your bank account and seeing 10,000 and be like, "Shit, that's nice." Or maybe you're shopping and doing a bunch of stuff, but you don't have to, like, feel the senses. And I think that's a big there's a, like I think a lot of things within Neville that are like heavily debated within the community. And that's one thing that I've always been like, you're just wasting your like energy by focusing on that and not like the feeling state, you know?
yeah, I agree. It is very debatable. I see that everywhere.
Yeah. Do you think it's like necessary to do sats or prayer in order to manifest?
No, no, honestly, no. You can just make a decision.
Hmm. No, I agree. I think sometimes I don't know the way I've been looking at because yeah, I have manifested plenty of things without doing sats, but I almost see it as, and not that there's things that are more difficult or not, like you're just the one creating that, but I think if there's something that you struggle more with for whatever reason to believe in or to change your state in, I think it's just like a tool to get you there. But it's not truly what manifests. But I do see it as a tool or like a little hack to like kind of hone in those beliefs if it's harder for you than, I don't know, let's say like the big ones people always compare is like getting a coffee to like a free coffee when you go to a coffee shop or whatever, comparing that to getting in a relationship with your SP. Like you might be able to just pull up to a coffee shop and say that, and you can easily do the same thing with your relationship. But if you have blocks to that or resistance in whatever way, I see Neville's techniques or other techniques just as tools to get you there. But truly, what matters is your feeling within that.
And also having that good mental diet and thinking from that,
Hmm.
which is what I just read too, right? It said living and acting on that conviction. So
Yeah.
you're it's that attitude of the person who has what it is that you want. So if you, like you just mentioned, like the SP, like the tools help you like state akin to sleep.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think um too, I think like these techniques, and again, you don't need any of this to manifest, but I do think these techniques kind of help you keep up that mental diet. That's what I've noticed at least. Is if I like do sats or something, it's like the mental diet, it just kind of like flows very naturally and it feels a lot easier the next day than if I don't and I almost have to, I guess, I don't want to say those harder things because I don't want to put limiting beliefs on everything, but I think you know what I mean. Like we all have something that we struggle with. Like I feel like you can even look at that through the greats and like through things that happen in their life. Like like Neville, like when he did die, I think I'm pretty sure he had health issues, and so I'm like, I think everyone has an area in their life where not that it's harder, but maybe they like forget to apply the law to, and I think Sats can help you with that. Um, Kind of like that mental diet or that reminder on those areas that you struggle with. Not that you have to, because they can all essentially be done in the same way. I hope that makes sense. I hope I'm not overcomplicating it, but yeah.
No, no, that makes total sense to me. I know what you're trying to say, and yeah, we don't want to put any labels on like, oh, this is a, like a coffee cup is small,
Mm-hmm.
and manifesting a relationship is bigger. They're not. They're all the same. It's the same level, but some people do have different beliefs when it comes to relationships, right? I don't
Mm-hmm.
really have like a belief in like coffee, and it's like, oh, it's really hard for me to get free cups of coffee.
Yeah, no, I literally have the belief. I remember being in like high school and I'd always get free food, and I remember telling my mom, I was like, "That's just my gift from God." That's what I would literally like jokingly tell her, I'd be like, "My gift from God is that I can get free food whenever I want," and she's like, "No, you can't." I was like, "Watch," and I would like get free food all this time. So I feel like that's like a belief I've had my whole life is that I'm like people just like to give me free food, um, and so yeah, I like you said, I think too, like if you have a understanding of the law, you can understand that there's not really big things or small things, but we're all still humans at the end of the day. And so some things are going to feel bigger than others, and although we can understand that we're still like you said, we're still human beings at the end of the day. And I think that's an important thing to understand with the law too, because I remember I'd be like, "Oh, I can't like see this as bigger than this." And that it's true, but I remember it was like unnecessary shit that I got caught up in when I could have just been going to the end and not worried about any of that, you know? I think it's just that it's okay. We're all humans and shit's gonna happen. I think giving yourself that grace makes things a lot easier, but also disciplining yourself. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It is about that. You know, and I want to talk about another thing. I'm just going down. I think this chapter, I really
Hmm.
really like it. It really emphasizes how to realize into this 3D world whatever it is that you want, right?
Hmm.
So I'm gonna read it right here in a second, and it says, to impress the subconscious with a desirable state, you must assume the feeling that would be yours had you already realized your wish. In defining your objective, you must be concerned only with the objective itself. The matter of expression or the difficulties involved are not to be considered by you. So, here, you have to go to the end of what
Hmm.
it is that you want, right? Let's say that I do want to be rich. This is something that we were talking about earlier. I'm not gonna like count money. Like, it's gonna, how am I going to feel now that I am rich,
Hmm.
right? And I'm not going to concern myself with how this is going to become like real in my this 3D world. The important thing for me is only going to be focusing on that state, like
Yeah.
assuming that feeling that it's already mine. That's it. It's already done.
Yeah. No, I think that's so important because I think that's something else. Okay. I'll see it on Reddit though. Like people will ask, like, oh, but like you guys say anything's possible, but like this, and this, and they'll throw out all of these circumstances. And I mean, I'm not like innocent of that. I used to think the same way. I'm like, but you know, blah blah blah. And it's like, no, you have to realize that like none of it matters. It does not matter. Just go to your end. And there's things that I like. I remember being caught up in like, but how is it gonna happen? And be like, no, I just have to go to the end. I just have to like trust in my end and go with that. And things happen in ways that you wouldn't even imagine, you know. And so I feel like that's a really important key to take in when you're learning about the law and just applying this to your life is there's no reason to worry about the how, and that's just going to delay you more. And just keep reminding yourself when it comes up that it doesn't matter and that's all taken care of. Like I think that's such an important piece.
Yeah, it is, because it's true. Do not focus on the circumstances. He has another thing here, and like I said, I'm just reading down this whole
Yeah.
chapter. It said, if you dwell on difficulties, barriers, or delay, the subconscious, by its very non-selective nature, accepts the feeling of difficulties and obstacles as your request and proceeds to produce them in your outer world. So it just keeps manifesting into your world if you keep focusing on the circumstances.
Mhm.
Let's say that you are manifesting love and you are noticing that some people hate you or something like that. If you continue to focus on that, um then that's what's going to continue in
Mhm.
your 3D world. You can, see it, but just don't give it any meaning and just know that it will change, because inside you already changed that. Right? It's already happening. You're already in the relationship.
Yeah. No, one thing I've been doing lately when if I'm noticing something that I don't want to make my reality though, um I'm literally just I'm like we're like not to sound like a cliche hippie girl, but like where attention goes, energy flows. Um I think of that and I'm like, well, why am I going to give this my energy or my attention because I don't want this in my reality. So the more I pay attention to it, the more it's going to grow and grow and become a bigger of an issue. Where if I'm just like, like I somehow created that, I'm like, cool, I'm going to shift my attention, focus on what I want, and it's going to go away. And I just trust in that. Um, I think that's a really helpful way to approach it. That's something that's helped me because, yeah, I'm not perfect. Like, I trip up sometimes for sure.
Now, none of us are perfect because we're human, right? But yeah, I mean, I love that. The attention, where attention goes, energy flows. uh,
Yeah, I'm like, I feel like a yoga girly when I say that, but I'm just like, that sometimes that quote will stand out to me because I'm like, oh yeah, I don't want to keep this shit alive. Like, I think it was you who talked about like cutting off how when you cut like a flower off from a stem, how it like, it's still alive for a short amount of time, but then it dies. And that always sticks with me too. That like when you told me that, I was all, Like, I don't know if you remember that
I do.
quote you had
Yeah,
told
it's
me.
because when you cut that flower, it's still alive for a little bit, but then it's going to die off.
Hmm.
That it's the awareness. If you keep placing it on the bad, then it's going to continue. And
Yeah.
but if you just like, okay, cool, I know that I'm not going to do this anymore, and it's just going to die away. It's kind of it goes back into the beliefs and the thoughts and the worries too. It's like, okay, this is also gonna go away. It's going to die.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I think that's a really helpful thing when you're facing circumstances in your 3D that kind of maybe remind you of, I guess, why you came down this journey, or why you're reading a bunch of Neville content. You're like, fuck, this is like what I don't want, is to remind yourself, like, okay, I can like choose to let this die right now. And it might still show up for a certain amount of time in my life. That's not your concern. Your concern is just to go to your desire and trust in that.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. It goes back to that quote that I was just reading, or the little paragraph that I was reading from the
Hmm.
book, where it's like, don't focus on the circumstances, the delays, meaning the time. Do not focus on time, because if you're focusing on time, you're essentially coming from lack. You're
Hmm.
saying, I don't have this. And your only focus, and the most important thing here, is for you to realize that it's already done. You already have it. As within, so without, right? That's one of my favorite things to say, as within, so without. So I'm only going to take care of like that internal state so that it realizes and it's a byproduct of whatever is going on internally within me.
Yeah. No, that's another thing that brings me comfort about the law too, is I'm like, this message is universal across different religions, across different spiritualities, like as within, so without. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even just saying that quote, I'm like, yeah, we see this in like so many different like cultural contexts. That's something that also helps me with the laws. I'm like, that's not like this just originated from Neville. Like, this is seen throughout historic texts, and I think it's just taken us a while to get it, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Andrea, I'm going to read you another thing from the book. I'm just grabbing all this, and essentially, this is like the same message over and over and over again. And you'll
Hmm.
notice that in all of Neville's books, right? But every single time that I read something, it's like I'm like, oh, I don't know how to explain it, but it just, I don't know, it brings me so much comfort. I don't know about you. What do you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it always, honestly, like, I'm like, I need to do it more, because even like there's certain coaches that I really like to watch, or I like to read success stories a lot. Like, I feel like that is just motivating to read a really good success story. It's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, nothing brings me comfort like reading Neville or reading a source teacher. I feel like your soul just knows it's the truth. That's how I feel. I'm just like, this is like, it just feels so true, and it's like such a good reminder. Like, I try to listen to Neville lectures, like at least once a week, and remind myself of that.
yeah, yeah. I'm to the point where I feel like I read at least, I don't know, 10 minutes every day. I try to, right? I don't do it every day, but I try to. Um, and I don't know, it's just comforting.
No, it is. I want to read more for sure. I just like, I'll like read a lot and then kind of fall out of it, and then I get back into reading. I'm like a collector of hobbies. So right now I'm crocheting, as you know.
Oh, that's fun.
So I listen to Neville lectures while I crochet.
That is so fun. I read some of the lectures, transcripts,
Hmm.
before I go to bed sometimes, so that's always fun.
Yeah, no, I feel like it helps you with that state that we've talked about, where I don't know, you just go to bed like feeling, yeah, like I know, I don't know, it just reading Neville does feel so good.
It does. I'm going to read another part of the book here, and it's essentially what we were just talking about, where it was about, not paying attention to those circumstances and about being and thinking from.
Hmm.
But this also talks about prayer, which is what you were mentioning earlier. It says, undisciplined man finds it difficult to believe that which is denied by the senses, and usually accepts or rejects solely on appearances of the senses. Because of this tendency to rely on the evidence of the senses, it is necessary to shut them out before starting to pray, before attempting to feel that which they deny. Whenever you are in a state of mind, I should like to, but I cannot, the harder you try, the less you are able to yield to the wish. You never attract that which you want, but always attract that which you are consciously of being. Prayer is the art of assuming the feeling of being and having that which you want. When the senses confirm the absence of your wish, all conscious effort to counteract the suggestion is futile and tends to intensify the suggestion.
Yeah, I really love that quote. I remember actually specifically when I was doing my reading for the last podcast episode, that quote, I being like, yes, I love that. I love how he even says like the undisciplined man. And because as you know, I don't want to create limiting beliefs, but I'm just going to say, like, sometimes it's hard to deny your senses, man. Like, we've lived our whole lives this way of being like, what we see out here is just reality and that's what it is and we can't change it. And like, they're always like, let go of things you don't have control of and all that kind of stuff. And so we've been primed most of our lives that like, that is what it is. And so I feel like, yeah, it does take a certain level of discipline to live by the law and remind yourself like, okay, like I'm seeing this out here. It don't matter. Like it takes a little, not effort, but it takes discipline and bringing your mental state back.
Right? And this too, it's like telling you pretty much believing is seeing, right? It's supposed to be like seeing is believing, but this is like the other way around. Like, I'm going to believe it and then I'm going to see it.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I like, honestly, too, if you just trace back certain things in your life, I feel like you can see, even before you manifested, even like good circumstances, bad circumstances, I feel like you can see like how you thought a certain way and how that brought about various things within your life.
Mm-hmm. So, in what I just read, it says like assuming the feeling of being and having that which
Mm-hmm.
you want. And then he also says, you never attract that which you want, but always attract that which you're conscious of being. So I feel like some of the people in the community, right? Because I've seen this on like the Neville Goddard subreddit or other places, forums. They try
Mm-hmm.
to get right, but he explains it perfectly in this book. It's about being you don't attract that which you want. It's what you are conscious of being.
Mm-hmm.
And assuming the feeling of being and having that which you want. He said it like twice here in this sentence alone.
Yeah. No, I think that's so important and just such. I feel like there's so many reminders that we need with the law because I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm creating it, but sometimes I'll see people make the same mistakes over and over again. Or not like the same people, but like various people in the Reddit groups will like come to the same conclusions over and over again. And I'm like, really, the law is so simple, but I feel like a lot of people get tangled in the same messes with it.
I think this goes back to the fact that a lot of people are getting their things, like their resources, the manifesting, I want to say, like the law manifesting resources from, not from the books,
Mm-hmm.
from coaches that don't really know what they're teaching, or they're just teaching techniques instead of what manifesting really is, which is in the books.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, because like sometimes, like I said, I'll just be sitting here crocheting and there'll be like law related videos just kind of like playing. And I'm not really paying it, like, I don't know, I'm just kind of, it's like background noise. But sometimes I'm like, what the fuck is this person talking about? Like, there was one that came on my YouTube. I was crocheting before we started recording today, and I was just, it played for like maybe 2 minutes, and I was like, what is this girl talking about? No hate to her or anything, but if that's how someone's getting all of their knowledge about the law and how to manifest, I just don't think that's a good idea. I feel like I like to listen to certain YouTubers because I love the law so much and I like to talk about it and I like to hear other people's perspective on it and how they talk about it, but that would never be my main source for knowledge about the law whatsoever.
Right. I'm so happy that we're both at this point in our lives that we're actually reading the books and the lectures. you know,
Yeah.
because I did try to read before when I first found it, and it was kind of rough because I had gone down the path of like Reddit and YouTube,
Hmm.
and that wasn't fun, honestly. But now that I know, like this is comforting, it's so much better. And I'm always going to, in this podcast, like every single time that we have an episode, I'm personally going to say, read the books. And
Yeah.
just like right now that we're discussing this book, Feeling is a Secret, tells you, I feel like, everything that you need to know.
No, it really does. Like honestly, I said it in our last episode or the first episode we made. Like if I could rewind, because I did start with reading Neville, but I can't say I understood what the fuck I was reading or really how to apply it. And I think if I started with Feeling is a Secret and like continuing to read that for the next some odd year, not for like years, but you know, like keep continue to return to it as my guide, I would be in a very different place than I am now. But you know, ultimately it's all our journeys. But I 100% recommend anyone just go to source material and read that and spend your time with it. Like take notes on, you know, like read it like you're studying. I feel like because I think at first Neville does take a little bit of time to take in. You know, just even the language that it speaks in sometimes is like a little like okay. I remember I would like read it out loud and I'm like, okay, so he's saying this. And then I would like kind of write it down on the sides to like make sure I was truly understanding what I was reading, you know?
Yeah, I understand you. I had it was a little difficult in the beginning too when I first read it. I was like, okay, what am I reading? Why is he quoting the Bible so much? Like, what's going on?
Yes, the Bible quoting that used to like trip me up at first. I was like, I don't know. I was just like confused because I don't know. I was raised like super Catholic and it was not a good experience for me. And I just like, I know I don't like have negativity associated with religion, but at that time I really did. And so picking up a Neville book and I was like seeing all these Bible quotes and like it was just kind of like it made me it made me a little resistant to it at first. I specifically remember sitting outside of my like work. I used to work at a bank and I would sit out there and like read the book in my car during my lunch break. And I remember like reading this one Bible quote and I was like, like I was like, I don't know if I like this. And then I was like, just try to trust it. And I remember trying to go with it. And I don't know, that was a very impactful moment for me. But to anyone who's maybe resistant to the Bible stuff, I wouldn't see it through like a religious lens or like Neville's some like Christian preacher dude. That's like, because that's initially how I was like, what the fuck is this? And then I realized what he was saying, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's I don't know. I think this is amazing. This is great. If there was a book that I would recommend that and you guys didn't want to read so much Bible stuff, it would be this one.
Mhm. Yeah, this one really doesn't have a lot of Bible stuff. He talks about prayer. There's a few Bible quotes in there. I think all of Neville's stuff is going to have a Bible quote in it. But like some of his books are like Bible heavy. So I do think it's a good book to start with.
Yeah, I believe Awaken Imagination's really heavy on the Bible
Hmm.
stuff. But honestly, that's also one of my favorites. Uh, which I probably will read later. I think on the next episode, I will be reading. Um, I'm actually going to be reading No One to Change But Self, and that lecture is to me truly amazing. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I think we're actually going to wrap this episode up.
Oh, nice. Oh, good for us. Okay, cool. Ending with one thought is I was going to say I've grown to really love the Bible stuff and find it very fascinating to learn about and read from Neville. It's actually made me want to reread the Bible and like find all the manifestation stuff in there. But yes, listen to Ruby's next episode. It's an amazing lecture. I read it. I read it a few times, and it really brings you that feeling that we're talking about of like feeling really good and sound in the law. But yeah, thank you guys for listening.
Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.